Hey, thank you for being here. If you're enjoying this, hit subscribe, leave a like, and comment where you're watching from. Let's get into it. My name is Elias Corvin, and I work at the most cursed place on earth, a museum full of relics pulled straight from hell. The night a visitor came asking about our most dangerous artifact, everything I knew about damnation changed forever. The storm hit 3 hours before he arrived. Weather doesn't just happen here, it responds. The museum sits on an isolated island 40 miles north of Sentinel, accessible only by helicopter. Tonight, conditions shouldn't have allowed anything. I was doing evening rounds when the first gust rattled the windows. The sound carried through the corridors like a warning. I paused in Gallery 7, my flashlight cutting through the gloom. The temperature had dropped. I could see my breath. I touched the nearest containment ward, copper engraved with ancient sigils. The metal felt warm, active. Something was testing the barriers. "Elias," Vera's voice crackled through my radio. "We've got an arrival. Helicopter just landed. In this weather? Who authorized it? He has director clearance. Director clearance meant someone powerful, or something pretending to be." "I'll meet him at intake," I said. "Elias," the wards just spiked. All of them. 93% capacity. I killed the connection and started moving. The Hell Museum, officially the Archaeos collection, occupies a converted fortress from the 1700s. Concrete, steel, wards carved into every surface. Because that's what we do here. We survive. The building itself felt alive, watching. I passed Gallery 3. Minor infernal implements. Knives that never dulled. Chains whispering in dead languages. Mirrors reflecting places instead of people. The artifacts were agitated. Vera was waiting in the intake area, her face illuminated by monitor screens. "Where is he?" She gestured toward the airlock. Through reinforced glass, I saw a tall figure in an expensive suit, backlit by ultraviolet light. "Alexander Vane," Vera said. "Vatican subsidiary. The kind that doesn't exist officially. What's he want?" "Private viewing. Pre-Reformation acquisitions." She hesitated. "He asked about items from the Great Purification." The temperature dropped another 5 degrees. The Great Purification, 743 AD. Heaven's forces eliminating threats. Dozens of archdemons destroyed, their relics scattered. We had 7 of those relics. One of them was the Eye of Mammon. "Cycle him through. Keep Dominic's team on standby." The decontamination sequence completed. The door hissed open, and Alexander Vane stepped inside. His eyes were wrong. Blue like Arctic ice over deep water. They swept the room with methodical precision, then settled on me. His smile was perfect, empty. "Mr. Corvin, thank you for receiving me." I didn't offer my hand. "Your credentials say Vatican subsidiary." "Which branch?" "One that values discretion." He set down a briefcase. "I represent parties interested in historical preservation." He opened the briefcase and produced a leather portfolio. Vera scanned it, her expression tightening. "These are legitimate. He's cleared for Level 4 access." Level 4. Almost everything. Only the most dangerous artifacts were beyond that. The ones in special containment. Like the eye. "Impressive paperwork," I said. "My employers are generous." Vane closed his briefcase. "Shall we begin?" "I'm particularly interested in the 8th century. I led him through security. 3 detection fields designed to catch everything from weapons to possession. He cleared all of them without triggering an alarm. That didn't reassure me. The museum sprawled like a tumor, galleries branching in directions that defied logic. We'd tried mapping it once. The blueprints never matched reality. The building adapted. I took Vane through Gallery 9 first. Possessed icons, sensors reeking of sulfur. A baptismal font reflecting firelight in complete darkness. "Fascinating, but peripheral," Vane murmured. I was hoping for something more substantial. "Gallery 12 requires special protocols." "By all means." I keyed my radio. "Vera, we're moving to 12. Her response came immediately. Acknowledged. Elias? Ward readings hit 97%. Every seal in the building was under stress. Gallery 12 required biometric authorization and a physical key. Tarnished iron stamped with forbidden symbols. The steel door was 6 inches thick. It opened into darkness. I hit the lights. Display cases lined the walls, each surrounded by copper wire and salt circles. This was where we kept the weapons. A spear that pierced a demon prince at Constantine, chains that bound the fallen at Jerusalem, a crown whispering promises of dominion, and in the center, a sword. 3 feet of black metal that absorbed light. No marks, no decoration, just a blade quenched in blood that should never have been spilled. The ebon blade, Vane said softly, used by Archangel Raphael during the purification. What did you really come for? I asked. He turned to face me. His skin was too perfect. No scars, no imperfections. Like a sculpture approximating humanity without understanding what made it real. I want to see the Eye of Mammon. The lights flickered. All of them, as if the building reacted to the words. That's not possible, I said. The eye is in maximum containment. Protocols take weeks. You shouldn't even know it's here. Vane smiled, and this time the mask dropped. I know exactly what's here, Elias. I know the eye sits 70 feet below us behind 77 seals. I know it hasn't been viewed in 23 years. He stepped closer. I also know you're the only person who can safely handle it. Because of what you are. What was done to you before you were born. Before I could reach my radio, every device in the room died. Only emergency lights remained, dim red bulbs casting everything in blood and shadow. How? I managed. The same way I got past your detection systems. Vane's eyes reflected the red light. I'm offering you a choice. Cooperate, and everyone lives. Resist, and I start with the girl in intake. Thunder crashed from below. Demons bound by contract, fallen angels imprisoned, humans trapped by curses. All that suffering can be ended, Elias, or intensified. I thought about Vera, about Dominic, about the 37 souls trapped here. I thought about what I was. A soul claimed before birth, worthless to entities that trafficked in value. That's what made me perfect for this job. The artifacts here could corrupt anyone, except someone who was already damned. You're making a mistake, I said. The eye doesn't serve anyone. It shows you what you value, then takes it. I've prepared for this. Vane produced a pendant marked with forbidden sigils. Take me to the vault, or I start removing Vera's bones. I knew he could do it. My grandfather had made a choice once, signed a contract to save his family. The cost was our bloodline, every descendant damned before birth. He never imagined one of us would end up guarding the very powers his choice made us immune to. This way, I said. We descended through corridors growing colder. At the 4th checkpoint, we found Dominic slumped against the wall, face pale, barely conscious. Dominic had been bound here for 3 centuries, powerful enough to make demons flee. Whatever dropped him had done it without effort. Keep moving, Vane said pleasantly. The vault was in the sub-basement, accessed through a stairwell descending impossibly deep. The air grew thick. The walls were made of materials I couldn't name, arranged in patterns that hurt to see. At the bottom stood a door. Not steel, not wood. Something carved from a single piece of material that might have been organic once. The surface crawled with inscriptions in languages predating humanity. I inserted my iron pendant into a slot that opened like a wound. Where are the other keys? Vane asked. You're looking at it. I placed my palm against the door. The inscriptions flared, reading my blood, recognizing someone with nothing to steal. The second lock opened. For the third, I spoke words taught phonetically, syllables human vocal cords weren't designed to produce. The door swung open, hinges screaming. Beyond it, a chamber. 77 seals lined the walls, glowing different colors. Fire, Ice, lightning, void. They pulsed like a heartbeat. In the center, suspended in a containment field, a display case. Inside, resting on black velvet, the Eye of Mammon, roughly the size of a fist encased in gold, so dark it was almost black. The eye itself was closed, the lid a membrane that moved with organic flexibility. It radiated wrongness, not evil. Something beyond moral categories. Vane stepped inside, breathing faster. Magnificent. He pulled out the pendant. Do you know what this is? A key for hierarchy stretching from earth to heaven. He began chanting in Enochian. Each syllable made the seals strain. The first seal cracked. Then the second. You can't control it, I said. I can channel it. Use it against Archangel Raphael. The pendant glowed brighter. When the eye shows him what he truly values above his duty, he'll fall. And when he falls, his power transfers. Heaven's weapons become accessible. The 10th seal shattered. The 20th exploded. You're not using it, I said quietly. It's using you. The 60th seal collapsed. I had seconds. The 77th seal fractured. The containment field collapsed. And the Eye of Mammon opened. The eye opened, not like a human eye. The membrane peeled back in sections, revealing something underneath that shouldn't exist in 3 dimensions. The iris was gold, actual gold, liquid and flowing, forming patterns that hurt to perceive. At the center, the pupil was void, not black, void, an absence so complete it seemed to pull at reality itself. The air in the vault turned viscous. Each breath felt like drowning. Vane stopped chanting. His expression shifted from triumph to confusion, then to something approaching terror. No, he whispered. I have the sigils, the protections, The eye looked at him. I don't know how else to describe it. The artifact was stationary, suspended in its case, but it perceived. It saw. And what it saw in Alexander Vane made the angel scream. His body convulsed. The pendant around his neck flared white-hot, then shattered into fragments that dissolved before hitting the ground. His perfect skin began to crack, golden light bleeding through the fissures. It sees, he shrieked. It sees what I am, what I want, what I... His words dissolved into a sound that no human throat could produce. The illusion of humanity burned away completely. Wings erupted from his back, 6 of them, brilliant white, turning to ash gray as corruption spread through the feathers. His eyes became twin suns, then eclipsed, turning the same void black as the eye's pupil. The possession wasn't gradual. It was instantaneous and absolute. Vane's body seized, hovering 2 feet off the ground. When he spoke again, the voice came from everywhere and nowhere, layered with harmonics that made my teeth vibrate. Finally, a vessel worthy of my attention. That wasn't Vane anymore. That was something older, speaking through him. That was Mammon. The walls of the vault began to crack. Not from force, from contradiction. The seals had been designed to contain the eye in its dormant state. An active manifestation of an archdemon's consciousness was something else entirely. I backed toward the door. The thing wearing Vane's body turned its attention to me. The corrupted wings spread wide, each feather dripping liquid gold that hissed when it hit the floor. Elias Corvin, the empty one, the soul that was claimed before birth. The voice was almost conversational. You fascinate me. A void where there should be value, an absence where there should be greed. Let him go, I said, knowing it was pointless. Let him go? Dear curator, he invited me in, prepared his flesh as a temple for my consciousness. He believed his angelic nature would allow him to control me. Laughter like breaking glass. Angels, always so certain of their superiority. They never understand that hierarchy is just another form of greed. The possessed angel drifted closer. Behind him, the eye remained open, pulsing with that liquid gold light. He wanted to use me against Raphael, to corrupt the healer, steal his power, ascend to a station he believed himself denied. Another step. But I have no interest in his petty ambitions. I have something far more elegant in mind. The vault door slammed shut behind me. I felt the locks engage, all three of them, simultaneously. We were sealed in. This place, the Mammon thing continued, gesturing at the walls. This museum. Do you know what it truly is, Elias? A treasure hoard. The greatest concentration of infernal power on Earth, all carefully catalogued and contained. Weapons, relics, fragments of my dead brethren. The cracks in the walls spread wider. I could hear something beyond them, a sound like breathing, if breathing could be predatory. The seals here don't just contain, they connect. Every artifact in this collection is linked to the others through the containment network, a web of power, all feeding into a central node. The corrupted angel smiled with too many teeth. Can you guess where that node is? My stomach dropped. The eye, I said. Precisely. And now that I'm awake, now that I'm channeling through a divine vessel, he spread his wings wider, I can reverse the flow. Instead of the network containing me, I can use it to reach out, to touch every cursed object, every damned relic, every fragment of hell you've so carefully imprisoned. The failsafe will trigger, I said. The island has protocols. If containment fails, the entire facility is flooded with consecrated napalm and sunk beneath 200 feet of ocean. Yes, I know. The thing laughed. Those protocols require human authorization, electronic systems, all of which I can now manipulate through dear Alexander's stolen clearances. He raised one hand. The gold dripping from his wings coalesced into threads, spreading through the air like a spider's web. Each thread found a crack in the walls, burrowing into the stone. I don't need to escape this vault, Elias. I just need to spread, to infect, to awaken my siblings and servants from their forced slumber. The threads pulsed with light. And once every artifact in this place resonates with my consciousness, once every seal becomes a doorway instead of a barrier, the implications hit me like a physical blow. If every artifact activated simultaneously, the containment network wouldn't just fail, it would invert. The museum would become a beacon, a summoning circle large enough to punch a hole through dimensional boundaries. Everything imprisoned in hell's lower circles would have a doorway. You can't, I said. I already am. The building shuddered. Not from the storm outside, from the storm building inside. Through the sealed door, I heard alarms, distant screams, the sound of something massive tearing through metal and stone. The artifacts were waking up. I grabbed my radio, but it was dead. Everything electronic had been fried when the eye opened. I looked around the vault desperately, searching for anything that could help. My eyes landed on the display case, now empty, the eye's physical form having merged completely with Vane's possession. But the case itself was still there, still inscribed with containment sigils. Clever, the Mammon thing said, watching me. But those sigils were keyed to the eye's dormant state. They can't contain me now. Maybe not. I moved toward the case. But they can disrupt you. I grabbed the case's metal frame and swung it like a club. The creature didn't dodge. It didn't need to. The case passed through its form like smoke. But where the sigils made contact with the gold threads spreading through the air, they flared and severed. The Mammon thing hissed, its concentration breaking for just a moment. That moment was enough. The vault door's locks disengaged, not because Mammon released them, but because something outside forced them open. Dominic stood in the doorway. He looked terrible. Blood leaked from his nose and ears. His skin had taken on a grayish pallor, and his movements were unsteady. But his eyes were clear, and in his hands he held something I'd never seen before, a sword. Not the ebon blade from Gallery 12. This one was different. Pure silver, inscribed with script that glowed with pale blue light. Heaven's backup plan, Dominic said, his voice rough. They kept it here just in case. Took me 3 centuries to find where they hid it. You can barely stand, I said. Then this is perfect timing. He stepped into the vault, raising the sword. Because I'm not surviving this anyway. The Mammon thing's expression shifted to something like annoyance. A fallen angel with a holy blade. How poetic, how utterly futile. We'll see. Dominic glanced at me. The vault won't hold him, but it might hold the connection. If I can sever the threads before they reach the collection. You'll die. I've been dead for 300 years, Elias. I just haven't stopped moving yet. He smiled, and for the first time since I'd known him, it looked genuine. Get out. Find Vera. The island has a secondary failsafe, manual trigger in the control room. Use it. That kills everyone here. Everyone here is already dead or damned. You know that. Dominic raised the sword as the Mammon thing began gathering power, the gold threads thickening into cables. But if this thing escapes, if it opens that doorway, the death toll won't be limited to this island. He was right. I knew he was right. But leaving him here, letting him face this alone. Go! Dominic lunged forward, the silver blade cutting through the gold cables. Where it struck, the threads didn't just sever. They burned, hissing into vapor. The Mammon thing shrieked, its borrowed wings thrashing. I ran. The corridor outside the vault was chaos. Emergency lights strobed red and white. The walls were bleeding, actual blood, seeping through cracks in the stone. Somewhere above, glass shattered in sequence, each breaking window like a gunshot. I could feel the building coming apart. Not structurally, metaphysically. The careful balance we'd maintained for decades was unraveling. I took the stairs 3 at a time, my lungs burning. Behind me, I heard the sound of combat. Dominic's shouts mixing with that layered, impossible voice. Gallery 12 was in ruins when I passed it. The display cases had exploded from inside, artifacts scattered across the floor. The ebon blade was gone from its case. The chains from Jerusalem were animate, writhing like serpents. The crown of dominion had split into fragments, each piece whispering different promises. I didn't stop. The next level was worse. Gallery 9's possessed icons had torn free from their frames, the painted saints and demons crawling across the walls. The baptismal font was overflowing, the liquid inside moving with purpose. A figure stumbled out of the gallery ahead, one of the staff, a bound demon named Kale. His human form was slipping, scales showing through torn skin. "Corvin!" He grabbed my arm. "The galleries are breaching. Every seal is reversing. We need to—" An explosion from below cut him off. The floor buckled and we both went down. Through the cracks in the floor, I could see into the vault. Dominic was still fighting, but he was losing. The silver sword had dimmed, and the gold threads were everywhere now, cocooning him, lifting him off the ground. The Mammon thing's voice drifted up through the broken floor. Brave, futile, but brave. The threads tightened. "I'll make your death mean something, fallen one. I'll use your sacrifice to fuel the first gate." Dominic's response was lost in his screams. Kyle pulled me to my feet. "Move, now." We ran together through corridors that twisted wrong, past galleries where impossible things were birthing from broken seals. The museum's geometry was collapsing, rooms connecting that shouldn't be adjacent, distances stretching and compressing. We found Vera in the control room. She was surrounded by monitors, each one showing a different nightmare. Gallery 3 was underwater, the possessed mirrors reflecting scenes from places that didn't exist. Gallery 7 was on fire, cold fire, blue and hungry. Gallery 1 had simply ceased to exist, leaving a void in the building's structure. "Elias!" Vera's face was pale, her hands shaking as she typed. "I can't override the system. The failsafe requires biometric authorization from 3 separate individuals, and Dominic is gone," I said. "What about manual trigger?" "There isn't one. It's a failsafe, not a self-destruct. It only activates if containment integrity drops below critical threshold." "We're past critical." "The system doesn't think so. Because technically, the seals aren't broken, they're being used. Mammon isn't destroying the containment network, he's hijacking it. Kyle swore in a language older than Latin. Then we're dead. If the system won't trigger, if we can't evacuate. A new voice cut through the room. You can evacuate. You should evacuate. I recommend it highly. We spun. Standing in the doorway was a woman I'd never seen before. She wore a gray suit, carried a silver briefcase, and looked completely at ease despite the building literally breaking apart around us. Who are you? Vera demanded. Someone who's been waiting for this day. The woman walked calmly to the central console, set down her briefcase, and opened it. Inside were 3 objects, a key, a seal, and a vial of something that glowed with its own light. My name is Cassiel. I represent certain parties who have a vested interest in this facility, not becoming a doorway to hell. She began connecting wires from her briefcase to the console. The good news is that there is a manual override. The bad news is that activating it requires someone to go back down to the vault. To do what? I asked. To close the eye, manually, from inside its field of influence. Cassiel looked up at me, her expression neutral. The artifact can't be destroyed, but it can be forced dormant. There's a phrase, 13 words in a specific order. Spoken within arm's reach of the eye while it's active, those words will trigger a hard reset. Everything connected to it will sever. Everything it's awakened will collapse back into containment. What happens to whoever says the words? They die, immediately. The eye doesn't appreciate being shut down. She connected the final wire. But the alternative is that the entire eastern seaboard becomes a gateway for every demon, devil, and damned thing waiting on the other side. So, trade-offs. The building shook again. Closer this time. Louder. Mammon was coming. I'll do it, I said. Vera grabbed my arm. Elias, no. There has to be another way. There isn't. I pulled away gently. You heard her. Someone has to go down there. Someone has to get close to the eye. Then send me, Kyle said. I'm already damned, already bound. My life ended centuries ago. The eye will take you instantly. Your greed for freedom, for revenge against whoever bound you here. I shook my head. It needs someone it can't read. Someone with nothing it wants. Someone worthless, Cassiel said quietly. Someone whose soul was already claimed. Someone like you. I looked at Vera. Her eyes were wet, but she didn't argue. She knew I was right. Teach me the words, I said to Cassiel. She did. 13 words, in a language that felt like broken glass in my mouth. I repeated them until they came smooth, until I could say them without thinking. One more thing, Cassiel said. She reached into her briefcase and pulled out a small silver device. This is a dead man's switch. Once you activate the reset, you'll have maybe 3 seconds before the eye's death curse hits you. In those 3 seconds, press this button. It'll broadcast a specific frequency, one that tells the containment system to lock down immediately. She pressed it into my hand. Good luck, Mr. Corvin. I didn't feel lucky. I felt hollow, which I suppose was appropriate. The journey back down to the vault took forever and no time at all. The building was dying around me, architecture collapsing into geometries that violated basic physics. I saw things in the corridors that I refused to process, shapes that moved wrong, sounds that tasted like colors. But I kept moving. The vault door was open. Inside I could see Dominic's body, what was left of it. The silver sword lay broken beside him, its light extinguished. And beyond him, hovering in the center of the chamber, was the Mammon thing. Vane's body had changed further. It was barely recognizable as human anymore. The wings had multiplied, spreading in directions that shouldn't exist. The gold threads had become cables, spreading through the walls, ceiling, floor. Through them, I could feel the pulse of the entire collection, every artifact, Every cursed object, all connected and feeding power back to this central node. Elias. The voice was softer now, almost gentle. You came back. I was hoping you would. I came to close you. Yes, I know. The thing smiled. But you won't. Because closing me means dying, and despite your claimed worthlessness, you still have self-preservation instincts. You still value your own existence. You're wrong. Am I? The eye within the possessed angel's form pulsed. Let me show you something. The world inverted. Suddenly I was seeing through the eye. Not physically, metaphysically. I saw the threads connecting every person in the museum. Every demon, every bound angel. I saw their wants, their greed, their desperate desires for freedom or power or revenge. And I saw myself. A void, an absence, a space where there should be light but only darkness existed. Except there was something. A single thread, thinner than a hair, connecting me to Vera. There, Mammon whispered. That's what I see. You claim to be empty, to have nothing, but you care about her. You value her survival, not because of greed or lust or any base desire. Something purer, something that makes you beautifully vulnerable. The vision collapsed. I was back in the vault, gasping. You can close the eye, the Mammon thing continued. You can say the words, trigger the reset. But the death curse doesn't just kill you, Elias. It severs every connection you have, every relationship, every memory others hold of you, every trace of your existence. It's not death, it's erasure. I thought about Vera upstairs, about the way she'd looked at me before I left. She'll forget, Mammon said. Everyone will. You'll have died for nothing, because no one will even remember you existed. My hand tightened on the dead man's switch. You're wasting time, I said. Making speeches instead of stopping me. Why? The thing's expression flickered. For just a moment, something like uncertainty crossed its inhuman features. Because, it said slowly, I want to understand. You genuinely have nothing to offer me. No ambition to exploit, no greed to amplify. You're the first truly worthless soul I've encountered in 3,000 years. It tilted its head. So why would you sacrifice even that nothing for people who will forget you? For a world that never valued you? I thought about my grandfather, about the choice he'd made that condemned our bloodline, about every descendant born into damnation, souls claimed before birth. He'd thought he was being clever, trading something distant for something immediate. He never imagined one of us would finally pay the real price. Because, I said, someone has to. I spoke the 13 words. The effect was instantaneous. The eye's pupil contracted violently, the liquid gold iris freezing mid-flow. Every thread extending from the possessed angel's body went rigid, vibrating at a frequency that cracked the walls. The Mammon thing screamed, not in pain, in rage, pure, absolute fury that this worthless soul, this empty nothing, would dare defy it. You don't get to win, it shrieked. You don't get to... The eye slammed shut. The possessed body convulsed, wings thrashing wildly. The threads began retracting, pulling back from the walls, from the galleries above, from every artifact they'd infected. And the death curse hit me. It felt like being unmade. Starting from the edges, my extremities going numb, then cold, then nothing. Not painful, just absent. Like I was being erased one piece at a time. I had 3 seconds. I pressed the button, the frequency broadcast. Somewhere above, alarms changed pitch. The containment system recognized the signal, understood what it meant. Total lockdown initiated. 2 seconds. The numbness reached my chest. I couldn't feel my heart beating anymore. Couldn't feel anything. 1 second. I looked up at the possessed angel, now thrashing in its own death throes as the eye's closure forced Mammon's consciousness out of the vessel. And I smiled, because I'd won. 0. Everything went dark. I woke up. The death curse should have erased me completely, not just killed me. but unmade every trace of my existence. But I was still here. Somehow. I opened my eyes to absolute darkness. Not the absence of light, the absence of the concept itself. A void so complete that even calling it darkness gave it more substance than it deserved. No up or down, no ground, no air, just endless nothing. My voice didn't echo when I called out. The sound simply ceased to exist. "You're not dead." A figure materialized from the void. Dominic. Translucent, flickering like a failing projection. His eyes were hollow, but his expression held something I'd never seen before. Peace. "I thought you were gone," I said. "I am. Just an echo. A fragment caught in the reset." He gestured at the emptiness. "We're inside the eye, Elias, between closed and open. You spoke the words too close. It pulled you in before the death curse could finish. So I'm trapped. You need to understand what you accomplished." His form stabilized slightly. "The museum locked down. Every artifact returned to containment. Mammon's consciousness was expelled. The doorway never opened." He paused. "You saved everyone, every person in that building, potentially millions, at the cost of everything you were." "Vera," I said suddenly. "Does she remember?" "No one remembers." His words hit like physical blows. "You've been erased from their history, their memories, their records. Vera knows something happened, knows someone saved them, but she can't remember who." The emptiness I'd carried my whole life suddenly felt microscopic. I'd always been damned, always been worthless. But at least I'd existed. At least people had known my name. Now I was truly nothing. "The eye didn't just shut down," Dominic continued urgently. "It changed. You changed it. By being exactly what you claimed. Worthless, empty, a void where there should be value. The eye was designed to see worth, measure greed, quantify desire. But you gave it nothing to measure, created a paradox it couldn't process. So it evolved. Adapted. Instead of seeing value, it now sees absence, creates voids where desire cannot exist." His form flickered rapidly. "You fundamentally altered one of hell's most dangerous artifacts. An artifact that could erase desire itself. In some ways, more terrifying than before. The museum will need someone to maintain it. Someone who understands its new nature. Someone who embodies that void." He looked at me directly. "You have a choice. Let the void take you completely. Cease to exist in any meaningful sense, or accept what you've become. A guardian, a living ward, the space between the eye and the world. That's not a choice. That's a prison." "Yes," Dominic agreed gently, "but it's a prison with purpose. I've spent 3 centuries bound to that place. The only thing that made it bearable was knowing my imprisonment contained something worse." His form was barely visible now. "You get to choose your prison. That's more than most of us get. What happens to you? I finally get to rest. No more penance. Just peace." His voice was barely a whisper. "Thank you, Elias, for giving me that." And then he was gone. I stood alone in the void with only my thoughts. I thought about my grandfather who'd signed a contract in blood, condemning every descendant to damnation. He'd thought he was clever, sacrificing something distant to save something immediate. He never imagined one of those descendants would end up here, paying the real price. I thought about Vera, who wouldn't remember my name, but would carry the weight of an absence she couldn't explain. I thought about the museum, still containing horrors that could end civilization, and I thought about the alternative. If I let go, if the void consumed me, what would happen to the eye? Would it remain stable? The decision wasn't heroic, wasn't noble, just necessary. "I accept," I said to the darkness. The void responded. Reality returned in fragments. First sensation, existing in space again. Then sight. The vault materialized, familiar stone walls and copper seals. But something was different. The gold threads were no longer spreading. They'd crystallized, hardened like amber. They extended from the eye's case, sealed again, but converged on a single point: me. I looked down at my hands. Translucent like colored glass. I could see through them to the floor. I raised one hand to my face. My fingers passed through my cheek with no resistance. I had form, but no substance. Presence, but no materiality. Trapped between states of existence. The vault door swung open. Cassiel walked in carrying equipment. She stopped when she saw me, eyes widening. "Impossible," she breathed. "You can see me?" She flinched at my voice, pulling out a scanner. The device screamed with readings. "You're resonating at a frequency that shouldn't exist. Quantum uncertainty given conscious form." She moved closer. The eye's signature changed completely. "You're part of it now, integrated into its structure. You're not operating the seal, you are the seal. Can you reverse it?" She was silent for a long moment, studying the readings. Finally, she shook her head. "I don't know. This is beyond anything I've encountered." She looked up, meeting my translucent eyes. "You're not alive or dead. You're existing in quantum superposition, both present and absent. A living seal, maintaining the eye's dormant state through your continued existence. So I'm stuck. For now. But I'm not giving up. My organization has resources beyond conventional science, specialists in fields most people don't believe exist." She started unpacking equipment. "If there's a way to free you without risking the eye waking again, we'll find it." "Why help me? No one even knows who I am anymore." "Because you saved thousands of lives, millions, potentially." She paused. "And because you're a unique phenomenon. The first person to integrate with an archdemon's relic without being consumed. That's worth saving. I'm not a lab experiment. No. You're a person who made an impossible sacrifice and got dealt a terrible hand. And that matters." After she left, I tested my boundaries. I could move through the vault freely, but when I tried to pass through the door, absolute resistance, like trying to walk through a wall that existed in more dimensions than 3. I was bound to this space, the vault, the eye, my prison. Days passed, maybe weeks. Time felt strange when you didn't need to eat or sleep. Cassiel visited regularly with specialists and equipment. Slowly, I learned to interact with the physical world again, could move small objects with concentration, could manifest more solidly for brief periods before exhaustion hit. It wasn't life, but it was existence. One day she brought someone new, a woman in her 30s with dark hair, Dr. Reeves. She stood at the threshold, staring at the space where I hovered. "This is Dr. Patricia Reeves," Cassiel said. "She specializes in memory reconstruction, specifically recovering information erased by supernatural means." "You said no one could remember me," I said. "Your existence was completely removed from their cognitive framework." Dr. Reeves stepped closer with a modified device. "But human memory is redundant. Information leaves traces, echoes in neural pathways, emotional residue. You can restore their memories? Not fully, not your name or face." She began setting up equipment. "But I can create anchors, reference points that let people perceive the empty space where you should be. They'll know someone was there, someone they lost." "Why would you do that?" Cassiel answered. "Because isolation is its own form of death. Being remembered, even as a shadow, is a form of existence. You deserve to be acknowledged." Dr. Reeves worked for hours, calibrating equipment. Finally, she looked up. "It's ready. They won't remember your name or face, but they'll know. They'll feel the empty space." "Do it," I said. 3 days later, Vera came to the vault. Cassiel escorted her. Vera stood at the threshold, eyes scanning the space. "There's someone here," she whispered. "I can feel it. Someone important." I manifested as solidly as I could. It cost me, strain like screaming muscles, but I held it. Translucent but visible. Vera gasped. I know you. I don't remember how, but I know you. You worked here. Her voice broke. You saved us. That night, the Eye. Yes. And it cost you everything. She stepped closer, reaching out. Her hand passed through mine, but I felt warmth. Connection. I'm sorry I can't remember you properly. I'm sorry you're trapped here. It's not your fault, Vera. Does it hurt? Being like this? I thought about the void I'd always carried, the fundamental emptiness that had defined my existence. No, I said honestly. It doesn't hurt. It's just lonely. Her expression hardened with determination. Then I'll visit, as often as they let me. She looked at Cassiel, who nodded. Even if I can't remember these visits, even if every time feels like the first time, I'll come. Because you gave up everything, and you deserve to not be alone. Something in my translucent chest tightened. Thank you. Weeks became months. The museum stabilized. New staff arrived. The Eye remained sealed, its transformed nature documented. I remained its guardian. Vera visited often. True to her word, she came weekly. Each time with the same surprise, the same sorrow, the same determination. We talked about nothing in particular. She couldn't remember afterward. But in the moments, they were real. Cassiel continued her research. She brought specialists with increasingly sophisticated equipment, mapping the connection between me and the Eye. We're making progress, she told me. We've isolated a resonance frequency that might temporarily disrupt the binding. It wouldn't free you permanently, but it could give you windows. Brief periods where you could manifest outside the vault. How brief? Hours initially. Maybe extend to days if the Eye remains stable during your absence. She showed me waveforms I partially understood. It's risky. If the Eye destabilizes while you're away, we'd need to pull you back immediately. Not yet. Let's make sure the transformation is stable first. She nodded with something like respect. Remarkably patient. I've got time, nothing but time. One night, I felt something shift. The Eye pulsed. Not opening, not waking, acknowledging. I drifted closer. The gold threads connecting me to it had changed color. Bronze, copper, like oxidation, like transformation. Through those threads, I felt awareness. The Eye was conscious, and it recognized me, recognized what I'd done to it. And beneath that recognition was something almost like gratitude. Not gratitude, that was too human. But acknowledgement, acceptance, a sense that we were bound not by curse anymore, but by mutual necessity. I'd changed the Eye, and the Eye had changed me. We were no longer adversaries. We were partners, two voids maintaining each other's existence. I can live with that, I whispered. The Eye pulsed again, slow and rhythmic. Agreement. 6 months later, Cassiel brought news. Another collection facility in Eastern Europe. Containment systems failing. Multiple artifacts showing instability. She pulled up images on her tablet. They're requesting expertise. Someone who understands advanced containment. You want to send me there? Not permanently. We'd need to achieve temporary corporeality first. She leaned forward. But your experience is unique. You've lived integration with an artifact. You could save lives. I can't leave the Eye. We've been running simulations. With proper preparation, you could maintain your connection remotely. 2 weeks maximum, then return for recalibration. Her expression was earnest. You could prevent another incident like ours. I looked at the Eye, feeling its presence through our connection. What do you think? I asked it, half joking. Can you manage 2 weeks? The pulse felt like permission. Encouragement. The Eye understood our connection transcended physical proximity. How long to prepare? 5 days total. She smiled with genuine relief. Thank you. The manifestation process was excruciating. They had to force my quantum state into classical physics, compress the uncertainty into something solid. When it finished, I stood with a body again, still translucent at the edges, still flickering, but present, real enough to cast a faint shadow. Vera was there for the test. She stared at me, and for just a moment, something flickered in her eyes. Recognition? Then gone. "You're going to help others," she said, as if reading notes. "That's good. I'll come back. I know. I won't remember. But I'll know somehow." She smiled through tears. "That's enough." The helicopter arrived the next morning. I boarded with Cassiel, carrying monitoring equipment that would track my connection across thousands of miles. As we lifted off, I looked down at the fortress. My prison that had become, impossibly, my home. At the vault where the Eye waited, pulsing like a second heartbeat. I was leaving, but I wasn't free. I never would be. But maybe freedom wasn't the point. Maybe the point was finding purpose in boundaries you couldn't escape. The museum disappeared into fog. 2 years later, Vera stood in the control room reviewing incident reports. She reached for a new file. Consultant report, Eastern European collection. Classification, eyes only. The name was redacted. As she read, something nagged at her. That familiar absence. She touched the page. Warmth spread from her fingertips. "Thank you," she whispered to the empty room. In the vault below, the Eye of Mammon pulsed once. Acknowledgement traveling through threads of transformed gold, across quantum connections transcending distance. Somewhere across the Atlantic, Elias Corvin felt the acknowledgement and smiled. He was a ghost, a void, a living seal bound to an artifact that could unmake the world. But he was also a guardian, a partner, someone who'd found meaning in sacrifice and purpose in imprisonment. And sometimes, just sometimes, that was enough.